Hi and welcome to the We Need the Roads podcast. And David, don't worry, as long as you hit that wire with a connecting hook at precisely 88 miles an hour, the instant the lightning strikes the tower, everything will be fine. And everything is indeed fine, as this week we have a bumper show for you, and returning guest and friend of the show, and now internationally published crime author extraordinaire, Charlie Gallagher. How's it going, Charlie?
Morning, yes, very well, thank you. Friend of the show, I like that. That's a long-time listener, first-time friend, I guess.
I liked internationally published bit. When did that happen?
Wednesday, I think, of the week just gone. The Portuguese version of Here's Watching You was released, so that was very exciting and quite a thrill, because I got the hard copies through the post. To see it translated and available for a completely different market is it's quite a thrill, to be honest. I was really impressed.
Anyway, coming up in this show, we're going to be talking the new trailers for Thor Love and Thunder and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. We're going to do some short, non-spoiler reviews of the third season of Netflix's anthology Love, Death and Robots and the big screen version of the cult animated show Bob's Burgers. And then for our main event in this podcast, we're going to be taking a spoiler-filled delve into the first 4 episodes of Disney Plus's Obi-Wan series and take the highway to the danger zone as we feel the need for some Top Gun Maverick. So, first up, we're going to talk Thor Love and Thunder. Now, recently, the teaser trailer dropped for what is my most anticipated film of the year, which is Taika Waititi's Thor Love and Thunder, which we've discussed many times on previous pods. But now we have the first full trailer, and the film is almost upon us next month, with tickets going on sale this coming Monday as we record this pod. So, the opening shot looks literally like something out of The Lion King, as we see Korg gathering a group of kids around to tell them the story of Space Viking Thor Odin's son. And we get a few embellishments along the way on how many times Thor has saved Earth, like, 500 times or something. We then delve straight into Thor thinking he's got his hammer back, but instead it flies to his ex-girlfriend Jane, who's also now a Thor for some reason, which I'm guessing we'll get into. What I liked next after that was that when we get the Marvel logo, we actually get Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child of Mine, but it's been reworked into the orchestral score of the film, which I think if that's going to be like the motive and the theme throughout, that's going to be pretty amazing. Now, as I've mentioned before, Portman's character was really poorly written and not really liked by the fans in the first couple of Thor movies, despite being an Oscar-winning actress at the time for Black Swan. But I think at least we know with Taika in charge, she's actually going to have a proper character arc, and it'll be something more than the annoying girlfriend like she was in the first 2 films. And already they seem to have a bit more chemistry in a few seconds of this trailer than the first 2 movies. But what we are here for in this trailer is finally the reveal of Gore. Not the, visceral sense. We're here for Gore the God Butcher, and that is Christian Bale's disturbing-looking Marilyn Manson lookalike villain for the film. And with a name like Gore the God Butcher, I'm guessing he's going to kill some gods. I mean, he wants to kill all the gods, according to the trailer, and it does look like he's going to do that by stabbing a planet to death, as we see. Not quite sure how the physics and size of that works. And, as the trailer progresses, we get the inevitable face-off between Thor and Gore, and I mean, good God, if that's not a wrestling tag team, if ever I've heard one. I mean, even trailers now have post-credits bit, which is insane to me. But we're introduced to Russell Crowe's character, Zeus. And, well, unfortunately, Zeus flicks him a bit too hard and Thor loses all his clothes, which leads to many ladies passing out and Jane and Valkyrie, just chilling out and eating some grapes. Yeah, we'll help in a bit. So, what do you guys think of the trailer? We'll go to you first, Charlie.
Yeah, I liked it in the fact that it looks like a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the film, which clearly is the idea of a trailer. So, you tick that one off. There's some, not concerns about it, that's not fair to say, but I did like the previous Thor films and the films where Thor's appeared. The wife was watching it with me, and she said it reminded her of the old He-Man movie. Do you remember that? I think it was like...
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a bit colourful, a bit cutesy at times, and I do worry that could be a little bit overplayed. There's clearly it's interesting you mentioned the director there. I'm quite a fan of his previous stuff, so I'm a little less worried now. I didn't realise that it was a Taika movie, but... I'm just a little bit concerned that it could be their sort of Jar Jar Binks moment, where they go a little bit... It's almost like a piss take of Thor.
In a way, I think what Waititi did with the last film, with Ragnarok, is that he kind of saved the franchise. Because if you look back at the first 2 Thor movies now, they took themselves quite seriously, It was that kind of Royal Shakespeare Company delivery of all the lines, It's Kenneth Branagh was directing the first one. And they were played very seriously. And I think Waititi, I remember he famously said when he did the last film, I haven't read the comics, I don't really know much about the character, and it's all a bit silly, isn't it? And he got rid of all that pronounced enunciation, and he just made and all the pretentious dialogue, and he just made it fun. I mean, if you look at Ragnarok, I think it's like Flash Gordon crossed like with you, like which, and you hit that one bang on the head there, Charlie, with He-Man. It is. It's like Flash Gordon and He-Man. It's bright, it's funny, but most of all, it was really entertaining. And they realised that Thor is a bit of a doofus, and that, oh wait, Hemsworth can be quite funny, and that's what they just leaned fully into. So I think everyone was quite happy for more of the same in this one.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Ragnarok movie, so if I had, then I probably would be a lot less concerned. I mean, Waititi is very, very good at what he does, so I'm sure it will be a spot-on movie. And like I said, it looks like the sort. One, it looks like a lot of fun, and two, it looks like the sort that makes you want to go to the cinema and see it on the big screen as it's supposed to be as well. Which, again, I think is another job done for the trailer.
Definitely. What about you, David? What do you think of this final trailer?
I think Charlie needs to see Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah,
100%.
it is one of...
It's amazing. It's probably one of the best Marvel superhero films there are.
Do you know? I don't know why I've never seen that. Clearly that one's missed me out, and it can happen when you get you get stuck into life and kids and busy and all sorts of rubbish. You can miss some absolute classics. And I've in fact, Neil, I know you've talked about it. I have heard a lot of really good things about that movie. I need to go and find it.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's just entertaining. It's pure entertainment from start to finish.
I can understand the Marvel fatigue though, because there's so much
stuff out,
and it's just like you can't like it's so difficult to keep up with it.
I wonder if
TV shows as well.
Yeah, I do wonder if that is a genuine issue for them, because there are not only that used to be when a Marvel movie come out, you knew it was going to be worth watching and it was going to be good. And recently there's been a few that have had should we say less than impressive reviews and haven't made you want to get up off your bottom and go and watch them, So I wonder if there is a bit of fatigue kicking in and there isn't that guarantee anymore where you've got to kind of make sure you watch everyone.
Well, I think one of the issues we had as well was that, you're definitely right there in that it's because it's an ongoing cinematic universe. I think the filmmakers are kind of in this corner now where they have to reference all the other films or previous plot points from the previous film, but they also need to try and have it be standalone as much as it can be to get the average viewer who's like... And of course, one of the other things that muddies the water is all these Marvel films that are being done by Sony with their characters like Morbius and Venom, which are terrible, and I think they sully the Marvel name. And like you say, the average cinema goer will see Marvel and go, "Oh, is that the new Marvel one?" And because if you said that to me about some of these, didn't you? And I was like, well, actually, no, they're not proper Marvel ones because it's Sony doing them. It's not actually Marvel themselves. They own the rights still to these characters, which is why they keep churning out really subpar stuff because they're making money off it.
Yeah, and as a bit of a layman as well, I appreciate that I've missed a couple. Then the next one comes out and you think, I can't go and see it because I won't know what's going on anymore. I have to catch up with the other ones first, and then life gets busy and that doesn't happen. So. Yeah, you do kind of talk yourself out of going to see him, maybe. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I will say though, I think one thing with this trailer is I think they've buried the lead of what happens to Thor in the start, because I think this is going to be Hemsworth's last film as the Norse god, because first of all, no other MCU character has had 4 films to their name, and really there's nowhere else they can go with the character now. Waititi's going to be going off to do Star Wars next, so I think this film will see the end of his character, maybe at the hands of Bale's God Butcherer, or more likely he dies saving the day, and I'm guessing, because then you can fold Portman's Thor character into any of the other millions of Marvel films on the go. But what I think gives it away is the very start of the trailer, because you've got Korg sitting down telling the kids the story of Thor. Now, you don't usually have that unless someone's dead or it's set way in the future afterwards, isn't it? So, yeah, I think they've kind of hinted at that quite strongly in the trailer
they'd have done that with knowing that was I feel like that's too big of a reveal or even a hint at a reveal. Then again, I
think we'll see next month, mate.
But then again, with the Doctor Strange one, that was one of my annoying things that they did with that film, where they just revealed everything in the trailer, like pretty much 80% of all the surprises was in the trailer, and then there was nothing actually revealed for the film a lot. So maybe you might be right. But I want to know... Well, actually, wait. I'm going to start with Natalie Portman, who's looking buff as hell. She's looking real good in this. She's clearly been hitting the weights a bit. She's looking very nice, very buff. And the gore, Neil, what can you tell me about his powers, because at one point he quite literally blows a planet up in this trailer.
With a sword.
Yes.
I'm not sure, mate. I don't actually know much about Gore, so I kind of thought sometimes I research certain characters and plot lines, but I think for the MCU stuff, I don't bother because I just want to go into the film kind of not knowing. You know, I don't want to know as much as, especially like when we was talking about Doctor Strange, and clearly a lot of the spoilers towards the end of that give away where the franchise is headed. Yeah, tell me a little bit, but not too much then, about what Gore can do.
Oh, me? I don't know. That's what I was asking you.
Oh, I thought you knew.
No.
Well,
I was asking you. You're the one that's meant to be the comic book nerd here.
I own some comic books, but not that many, mate. No, I don't know, but he looks creepy, didn't he?
He did, like you. I think you hit it with Marilyn Manson. He does.
Yeah.
He looks like Christian Bale was just like, okay, what's the most sadistic looking thing? Oh, Marilyn Manson. People are scared of him. Let's go for that look. But yeah, he is looking menacing, and I was rather disappointed that Thor was blurred out. I'm hoping they remove that for the film.
Well,
and we don't get a little blurred out section of him.
It's a 12. It's going to be a 12A like every Marvel film ever made. So I'm assuming the blurring will probably stay and probably be extended as a joke. Nice to see Russell Crowe back in a proper film again, because he's not been making good films for a while. If anyone who's seen what was that film where he played an angry driver last year, Unhinged or something. That's it. The poster, Russell Crowe is unhinged, and wow, definitely was. Right, so Thor Love and Thunder is out on the 8th of July, and I've already been harassing my Cineworld, asking them, are they going to do a bill of the previous films leading up to this one with a midnight opening? And they did not know, so I'm going to keep harassing them for a little bit longer.
They're definitely not going to do that. Yeah.
Neil, with your Wikipedia type memory for movies, can you ever remember with Christian Bale playing the villain in a Marvel movie? Can you ever remember someone being the hero for a DC and then a villain in a Marvel, or vice versa? Or is that going to be a fantastic trivia question in the future?
I think that's going to be the trivia question in the future. I think there's been a couple of actors who've crossed the streams, but they've not been main key like villains or heroes. It's kind of been smaller side characters. I'm trying to think.
Michael Keaton.
Yeah, he's Batman in DC, and he's Vulture in the Marvel Spider-Man films.
Homecoming, yeah.
That is a great shout. What a great shout.
Yeah. David wins. You don't win anything, but, bragging
I know
rights.
Things.
Yeah. You win bragging rights for the rest of this podcast.
A Batman link as well. How strange that Batman seems to lend itself well to villains. That kind of makes sense, actually.
We're going to end up with Robert Pattinson in another MCU film after he's done with Batman, probably.
Quite possibly.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? With all these sort of comic book and superhero things, there's so many different, especially with multiverse stuff they're hinting and doing now, you can have so many different versions of characters and actors playing them and different actors. And where you've had all the original films in the 90s and the early 2000s now, like what they did with Spider-Man, you can go back and bring back the original casts from those films and blend them with the new ones. And because you've got that cinematic history within those franchises, it does add a bit more to it now. But of course, you then get sometimes where we just bring people back and then you have a proper storyline. Like the last Spider-Man one absolutely nailed it. Right, well, I think that rounds us up talking about Thor. And next up in the trailers is our man Little Timmy Tom, and that's Tom Cruise with the Mission Impossible: A Dead Reckoning Part 1 trailer. Now, after being delayed a full year or more due to COVID, the 7th film in the Mission Impossible franchise is the first of a two-parter entitled Dead Reckoning. And I'm pretty sure this trailer actually wasn't supposed to drop this early, but apparently it was leaked online, and they just decided, I think Paramount just decided, okay, let's just get it out there so people can see the proper version of it. And bizarrely enough, I do think this was a real case because it came out the same day as the new Thor trailer. Now, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't choose to release on the same day as another big film, which because obviously it's going to split the amount of people that are going to watch it. But, Paramount just decided it was time.
Do they know?
And also, if you think
when other films are going to release theirs, though, is there like a big?
I'm sure
calendar?
they do.
Do they share it all? And there's like a big calendar, and they're like, okay, well, this film's being released on this day, so we can't do that.
I don't think they probably cooperate as much on it, but I think they probably, they have spies and they're releasing it that day. No, we don't do it, because that's how they sort out release dates, isn't it? They go, oh, we're not releasing that week because this is coming out. Cinema's a bit different because obviously the screens are booked months and months in advance, aren't they? With the exhibitors and that, so they know what films are on then. So the other cinemas, the other studios can go, right, we're not releasing that week because this is out, or we don't want to be up against the latest Avengers film.
Purposely that week to pull viewers from other platforms.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're counter-programming, so, like, I don't know, when there's a big Marvel film out, there'll always be some indie film.
All the TV that's been released this last week, the last 2 weeks.
There's been a lot.
Yeah, well, they're just pulling viewership from each other.
Well, I don't think so much at the cinema because, as we're going to talk about later with Top Gun, what they ended up doing was they ended up dropping this trailer, because, again, Tom Cruise and Paramount, and they dropped it before Top Gun Maverick. So literally the last trailer we saw before we all saw Top Gun the other week was Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. So I think, was it coincidence or not? Well, you know what? I think now this was on my most anticipated films of the year list at the start of the year until it got bumped to next year, where of course once again it will make my list. And I think ever since Mission Impossible 5 Rogue Nation in 2015, where Cruise started working with writer-director Christopher McQuarrie, and McQuarrie took over the reins of the franchise, I think it's done a kind of a Fast and the Furious in that it's given the franchise a much-needed boost and taken it into a new direction and got a whole new lot of fans on it. You remember McQuarrie wrote The Usual Suspects as his first script, and his directorial debut a few years back, The Way of the Gun, was a really, really underrated film. And that kind of, because he didn't do well, he kind of was like in the wilderness for quite a few years, and it was only working with Cruise behind the scenes on some other films where they struck up this friendship. And what works is that you have to have seen Mission Impossible 5 to follow what happens in Mission Impossible 6, and then judging from this trailer, it continues the story from previous films. So they've almost applied the whole Marvel thing to Mission Impossible here, where it's an ongoing series and characters build up from film to film. Anyway, we get the globe trotting in immediately as we see people in horseback on a desert. By now, the expected car chase in this type of film, and a full-on party in St. Mark's Square, Venice, which is clearly the scene where everyone got COVID, I'd imagine. We hear that Ethan's days of fighting for the greater good are over. Hot Fuzz crossover, anyone there with Simon Pegg in a film as well? They've got to make some kind of joke about the greater good. And actually, the man who's speaking to Cruise in the trailer is Henry Chesney. I can't remember the character's name, but the actor, he was in the original Mission Impossible film back in the 90s, and he hadn't been seen since then. So again, 7th film in the series, going back to the first film to bring back a new potential antagonist. We get to see Rebecca Ferguson's Ilsa with a cross around her neck that someone seems to be after. And please do not kill Ilsa, that is all. We get our first looks at Hayley Atwell, S.A. Morales, Pom Klementov, and of course, they're the new additions to the franchise. And we have the OG Mission Impossible sidekicks, Simon Pegg's Benji and Ving Rhames Luther. Now, from the VO, it seems to imply that the old days of black and white and good and evil are long gone. And who are you really fighting these days? And that Ethan needs to pick a side, even though he doesn't actually know who the sides are. He goes a little bit Lawrence of Arabia and rides a horse through a desert while he weighs this big decision. We get to see a very happy Hayley Atwell and Ethan in Venice before an angry Pom Klementov. Now, she's Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy, so it's nice to see her do something slightly different, and she's just running along the train and headbutting people. Then, I don't know what's happened here, but we see Ilsa throwing down Jedi style with S.A. Morales as yet unnamed, most likely bad guy, and she's got an eye patch, and they're having a samurai sword fight on a bridge in Venice. I mean, again, don't kill Ilsa because she is one of the best characters. Then you kind of get a greatest hits style package. Tom running. There's a rumour that is in every one of his contracts that he has to run because apparently he thinks he looks good running, and apparently that's the rumour. Jumping, car chases, bikes, and then you get the 2 trailer money shots of that train flying off the bridge and the now infamous motorbike off a mountaintop jump that ends the trailer. Honestly, why even bother with Bond now? Like I've said for quite a little while now, Mission Impossible is like Bond, but without the baggage of having to cater to a set list of tropes every film. Also, any of the actresses in this film, and that's Ferguson, Kirby and Atwell, could be the female Bond equivalent, and, Tom Cruise is like, nope, they're all here in my film. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this. What do you think, Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, your sum up there, I couldn't agree more. I mean, Mission Impossible does what it does incredibly well. It does what other things try to do similar, far, far better. The trailer, again, makes me want to watch the film. I like the regular cast, and you can see a lot of them are returning, as you've already mentioned. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just full-on action from start to finish with these films. You can kind of take it as deep as you like. You can get right into the backstory of the characters and the progression of the series and the character arcs, or you can just wait for the next your next fight to kick off. And I think it really does appeal to so many different types of people and different types of audiences. And yeah, that'd be fantastic. And that is another one that is a must see at the cinema, I think. And I think one reason maybe why they've released a trailer now is because it is so delayed. I was starting to wonder what's going on, when the next one's coming out, and obviously that's now put it back in everyone's mind and answered that question. So yeah, looking forward to it, even though it's a long way off.
Yeah, I wonder if it's almost like a bit of a flex by Tom Cruise, isn't it? Where obviously we're going to talk about Top Gun Maverick a little bit later, and that's come out and become a massive success, and it's his biggest opening of all time that Tom Cruise has had. And it's almost like saying, oh well, but this time next year I will also have the best action film of the year coming out. Yeah,
quite right. I'm sure that's part of the thinking. Tom Cruise is in everyone's mind right now, and you know you want to see more of him really after his performance in that film, and that's just a hint. I mean, I went to see Top Gun at the cinema, of course, and that was a trailer.
So, David, what do you think about the new Mission Impossible trailer?
Okay, Neil, I have a confession to make.
You haven't seen a Mission Impossible film, have you?
I have no.
Since
I have not seen a Mission Impossible film. I'm not even 100% sure I've seen the first one. I don't.
Wow.
You know what? I probably did see the first one a long time ago, but
You would have been like 3 or 4.
And now it's like it's one of those where it's just become like there's 7 of them now, and it's a little overwhelming to go into wanting to watch every single one of them back to back, even though I'm doing that with all the Bond films at the moment, so that doesn't make sense. But
yeah,
it's a little frightening, and I haven't seen a single one. But I watched the trailer, and the trailer looks fun. I don't know who any of the characters are aside from Tom Cruise, who's sort of just fighting around, flowing fists at people and jumping off cliffs and stuff. But
well, it's like a Bond film, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but yeah, I just don't know what's happening. Like, I think, like you mentioned, it being a continuation of the film story from series episode 5. Film 5, sorry. Isn't a great thing for people like myself, because they're just not going to go and watch this one. They're going to have to go watch 5 and 6 first to fully understand what's going on.
I think Charlie was kind of had the point there, though, that what the Mission Impossible films do well is, yes, there's ongoing character arcs, but you can still go into a Mission Impossible film not having seen the previous ones, and they are that well written that they can catch you up quickly with who's who in it.
Yeah, so it does the same as Bond then, like with Spectre being in the background or whatever.
Except I think these like the last 2 Mission Impossible films have arguably been better than the last couple of Bond films. I do. I just think they're more entertaining. The stunts are better, and like I say, Mission Impossible doesn't have the tropes and the baggage that Bond does. Bond has to hit all these checkpoints every film. Mission Impossible doesn't. And I think what really picked it up was when they brought Rebecca Ferguson's character in, Ilsa Forst, in Mission Impossible 5, and she is an MI5 secret agent. And you look at it, and I was just watching it, everyone at the time was like, so if you ever needed a female James Bond, there she is, and she's in Mission Impossible. She wasn't written in as a love interest. That was the other big thing. She wasn't written in, and two films later, and she's still Tom Cruise's action equal in the film. So very, very good in that side of things.
One that you said about has to hit every trope with Bond, and I totally agree. I mean, there are things that the fans demand in every film. With Mission Impossible, that there is also one of those in that Tom Cruise has to look amazing at every moment he's on screen, and he has to be the overall hero, and he has to there's never a joke about him. And I think that, again, we're going to come to Top Gun a bit later on, but I wonder if he's getting a bit too much power on the movies that he's in, because he's always, the one that saves the day, the hero. He never drops the ball in the slightest.
He has played a villain in a couple of films.
Yeah, but even as a villain, I'm sure he looked good. He's never played the doofus, or he's never made a mistake, or it's never his fault, and he's always the one clean up after other people's errors. He's got the Simon Pegg character to do that, and I wonder if he obviously is the star actor, but he's also quite often he gets producer credits, doesn't he? Or he's even other bits in the films. I wonder if his power is that he's very protective of his image, shall we say?
Is there a bigger star out there at the moment than Tom Cruise?
I don't think there is, and again, I think getting in. Well, when we get onto Top Gun a little bit, there's quite a lot of meta commentary about his place as like the biggest movie star in the world, and are there any big movie stars and all that kind of going forward. So Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning will be out sometime next year. Now, next up, a couple of quick short mini reviews, and these are non-spoiler ones for you. So we have Love, Death and Robots Season 3 on Netflix, and it's worth a mention because it's the animated anthology series from Tim Miller and David Fincher. Now, this show has always been a bit hit and miss for me, and indeed Season 1 got a bit of flack for being a bit too porny with its CGI, which thankfully they seem to have reined in now by this third series. Now, Season 3 has 9 episodes ranging from 10 minutes to 21 minutes in length. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through all of them, but the 3 highlights for me are the first, Free Robots Exit Strategies, which is a continuing short from the previous 2 seasons about 3 robots travelling around a post-apocalyptic galaxy and looking at all the reasons why humanity is no longer around. And these are really, really great little short films. The second episode, Bad Travelling, is an absolute corker, and it's the first return to the director's chair since Mank for David Fincher. I think it's the first time he's ever made an animated film as well. And it's a dark tale of a sea monster and the wretched crew trying to survive it. Do you know what? I would quite have happily watched this as a full-length live-action film from Fincher as well. It's that good in the short amount of time it's on screen. And the last one I would recommend is the 9th episode of the anthology, which is Jibaro by Alberto Emilio, who I'm sure we're going to be hearing a lot more from over the years. It's about a group of conquistadors in the Puerto Rican jungle who run into a woman a woman-like creature in a lake, draped in jewels, who they try to steal, and her siren song drives them mad, killing each other, all except for a death knight called Jibaro. And what follows is this kind of twisted dance between these two characters, with absolutely stunning visuals, and again, great short-form storytelling. I definitely think this Alberto Mielgo is a talent that's going to be worth keeping an eye on in the future. Either of you guys watched Love, Death and Robots before?
9.
Yes, not this series, but I've watched some of the previous, and I think you've already covered it again, but some of the storytelling is magnificent. Clearly that's my thing. I like a decent story, and what they can do within 10 minutes from an emotional point of view is quite astonishing in some of them. I agree with the hit and miss comment, because some of them really aren't my cup of tea, but some of them are quite beautiful and really poignant, and like I say, 10, 20 minutes and you've gone on a full journey. So some of it's well worth watching.
I think with any anthology, it's not everyone in it isn't going to please everyone, and I think that's generally why they aren't always as popular as other people. I think people, when they watch something, they want to love every episode of it or every part of it, and anthologies by their nature are a little bit of something different all the way through. I suppose, again, on your thing, and there's quite a lot of horror authors do really good short story collections, and you read some of those, and sometimes they're better than their full-length novels. I remember Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, he does some brilliant short story books. One of them's called, is it called Strange Weather, I think? And there's all these little short stories, and they're brilliant. And again, some aren't, and again, the quality and like the genre, even though they're all kind of horror-inflected, it completely jumps between story to story, and I guess as a viewer and a reader, on both senses of the word, it can be a bit jarring, because you're going, as well, like I said, with the Fincher one, I would quite happily watch that as a feature-length live-action film, with, these people at sea, and this monster gets on board, and they're trying to stay away from the monster, and do the monster's bidding at the same time, and everyone's trying to betray each other just to stay alive. And it was really dark, and it was really awesome. So, I think what's good for this series is it's getting better as it goes by each season. And like you say, some of the animation in it is absolutely breathtaking and really pushing the boundaries of like realism. And I mean, I showed my dad some of them once, and he watched it, and he did not know. If I hadn't told him it was animated, he wouldn't have been able to spot it was an animated show, because an animated short, because the CGI was so next level in it. In one of the weirdest double bills in recent memory at the cinema, I saw the Bob's Burgers movie, back to back with Alex Garland's Men, which we'll review in our next episode. Now, if you're not familiar with Bob's Burgers, it's an animated sitcom currently in its 12th season, with all seasons currently available on Disney Plus in the UK. It's about Bob and Linda, who run an ever-struggling burger restaurant, and their 3 children, Tina, Jean and Louise. Now, I'd only recently kind of got into this show, and I'm somewhere around season 6 or 7 when I decided to see this. What makes Bob's Burgers so good? I think it's the fact that it's a lot more wholesome and cleverly written than many other animated shows at the moment. The Simpsons and Family Guy limp on to infinity, and you got newer shows like Big Mouth and Paradise PD that dive massively into adult material that you would never expect to see on screen. And even in my older age now, it's just like, sometimes you're just like, wow, this is just a sea of smut. And I think Bob's Burgers is so wholesome. You know, the family are generally nice to each other. They want to help people. And you don't have to have seen all the episodes to get the movie, because it has a simple plot about them struggling for money, a murder mystery plot line with a body being found right outside the restaurant. But yeah, I'm not going to go too much further into the plot for obvious reasons. But yeah, do you know what? It's a really well-written animated film for the whole family, whether you've seen the show or not. And I'll definitely be following through with my watch through on the rest of the series on Disney+. Either of you guys seen Bob's Burgers, or was aware of it until recently?
It's not one I've watched, no. It sounds interesting. I didn't realise it was animated until you said about halfway through. So, yeah, something to look out for.
I'm a fan of Bob's Burgers. I've watched all the seasons, unless there's like a brand new one that's come out this year.
Wow, so you're ahead of me on that.
I've been watching them all, and I do want to go and see the film, because me and Natasha are both quite big fans. We watch them, like animated shows like Futuramas and stuff when we go to bed. Just bang it on because it's easy and I can fall asleep to it. And Bob's Burgers is, like you mentioned, it is that wholesome fun. It kind of takes up where The Simpsons has dropped in recent years, where The Simpsons is just like, the last 10 years of The Simpsons hasn't been fantastic.
I think we could say 20.
Yeah, no, I did change it. The last, but where their episode, their writing's just not been fantastic, and then the Bob's Burgers sort of has taken up that hole in my life, which The Simpsons is no longer filling. And it's beautiful filmed. It's beautiful, like, fun show to watch. And Bob, and the cross-reference, like the Archer and Bob's Burgers crossover is just brilliant.
Yeah, we should mention that H. John Benjamin, who's a voice actor of Bob in Bob's Burgers, is also the voice of Sterling Archer in the other 12-year-long running animated sitcom Archer. And it's funny because I'd watched Archer first, like seen all of Archer, and never watched Bob's Burgers at all. And then, so I didn't get the crossover when it happened at the start of one of the seasons of Archer. I love the absurdity in some of the scenes, but it's not from like a nasty place like Family Guy can be sometimes. And I think, like I say, it's just in my old age now. Like, you want something that's a little bit more like wholesome and just fun to watch. I would quickly throw one other recommendation out there as well then, David. If you like Bob's Burgers, because it's that type of show, also on Disney+, I'd recommend The Great North. Have you heard of that?
Nah.
Very similar show. It's Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec doing the voice, and it's him and his family living in Alaska. And it's just, again, with the whole working in Alaska thing that over years ago, it's kind of, an animated sitcom set in Alaska, and it's got that Bob's Burger vibe to it.
I have seen this. I haven't watched it, but it's a similar animation style, isn't it, to Bob's Burger?
So it's kind of like, you kind of like go from one to, I'm kind of alternating between the two at the minute. But both very, very good animated shows, and two of my favourites in a minute. Right, and now we are going to be moving on to our spoiler section. And first up today, we're going to be talking Disney Plus's new Star Wars show, Obi-Wan.
Spoilers? Where we're going, there are nothing but spoilers.
Hello there. Obi-Wan is a new six-parter that fills in the blanks of how Obi went from chopping Vader's arms and legs off at the end of Revenge of the Sith to being an old hermit who lived in a desert cave in the original Star Wars. Yeah, I don't really think fandom was crying out for an Obi-Wan The Middle Years story, but since Disney acquired Star Wars, every conceivable spin-off has been mooted, and here we are with Ewan McGregor returning to the role from the early 2000s, but this time without George Lucas's terrible dialogue or direction. And also, the big announcement was that the much-derided Hayden Christensen, who played Anakin Skywalker and Vader, was also returning to portray Vader once again. Now, the whole series is directed by Deborah Chow, who cut her teeth on The Mandalorian, but I think one of my issues with Kenobi is that it's got 5 writers for the most part, for most episodes, which can account for the really uneven tone throughout. And what do you guys think on this so far? We'll start with you, Charlie.
I'm up to date, so I watched the last one last night, and I was a little bit more impressed last night. If we'd have had this yesterday, I'd have probably been a bit angry about the whole thing. I am kind of disappointed to the point of being angry, and I think I had a vent at you at work when we saw each other earlier in the week. There was a scene in episode 3 where Darth Vader and Obi-Wan face off, and it's a lightsaber moment, and you're like, right, this is what we've been waiting our whole lives for. You know, the greatest villain in the history of movie and TV, arguably, about to have a lightsaber fight with a proper Jedi. And Obi-Wan ends up using his lightsaber as a torch, and then it fizzles out. And I'm like, this I had big expectations, and that kind of sums it up. The action isn't, for me, yet what it should be. There's some bizarre scenes that need some sort of explanation that I couldn't see. There was one scene where Obi-Wan sees off 5 stormtroopers to protect the girl, the princess, who of course is Leia, and then another 3 turn up, and he gives up. He goes down to his knees and gives up, and you think, well, he's just done 5. What's the issue? And the lightsaber scene with Darth Vader, he's dragged through a raging fire and doesn't appear injured. There's no explanation really for that. And then there's a 3-meter fight between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, and Darth Vader kind of gives up, having already demonstrated in his walk to Obi-Wan that he can pick people up using the Force from quite some distance, bring them closer, or do whatever you want with them. You can kill them from a distance, as we all know. So it's just a bit confusing, and it's, I don't know, when you're talking about Darth Vader, it should be incredible. They've sort of brought out the big gun and then not fired it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think the direction in the series is slightly disappointing in certain places where, like you say, it should be this epic, massive moment,
Now I am the master.
What they're trying to do is they're trying to do a bit more shades of grey with all the Jedi and the Sith thing, because as you notice throughout the show, so are we supposed to believe that both the Sith and Jedi tracked down children and took them away to train? It's not a good look for either of them, really. I'm still waiting for Ghost Liam Neeson to turn up. And I mean, they've clearly telegraphed it, because twice now he's asked, where are you, Master? I need your guidance. Yeah, no, Ghost Liam Neeson's going to rock up in 100%. Probably next episode, yeah.
I think I've been watching a different show.
You enjoying it?
I've been really enjoying it. I think it's... Because I had a bad feeling about this show.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Yes, Neil. Mainly because, exactly what you said, I don't think anyone was really asking for it. But then all of the promotional stuff that the actors were doing, building up to it, got me really hyped for it, because Hayden Christensen's back and Obi-Wan's back, and there's the whole... And then the very beginning of the show had just, the previously bit, and it's just the prequel films. That got me a little hyped, because for some reason now in my head, I'm seeing the prequel films as this... beloved Star Wars show films from my childhood, and not the utter crap that they were when they came out. So they've kind of changed in my head. My head's weird. It changes opinions all the time.
I think you've done a reverse ferret, haven't you? And I think you hit it on the head there. Because they're films you watched when you were a kid, you're kind of looking at them with rose-tinted spectacles a little bit. Like, oh yeah, I remember that when I was a kid. That was brilliant. Even though at the time, especially
they
for me,
were pretty pants and disappointing, yeah.
Yeah, but again, the argument to that is, well, no, if you're a kid growing up in the early 2000s, you probably did love Star Wars films, because at the time there still wasn't a lot else out there like it on a big sci-fi action film. So I know from online, from our followers on Twitter, there's absolutely tons of people who love the prequels despite being OG Star Wars fans like we are. We weren't as big a fans of them. And do you know what? I bet the same things happened with the most recent trilogy as well, where they, where certain people love them and other people hate them and moan about canon.
The most recent trilogy.
No, but again,
in a lot of respect, yeah. I think the Last Jedi, which I think a lot of people think is the better one, I couldn't bloody stand it.
But there's my point: is there'll be a generation of kids who have watched those in the cinema for the first time and absolutely love them, no matter what anyone says. So that's the positive side of fandom, right? I think no matter what Star Wars films are released, if you see one of those as a kid in the cinema, you're always going to love it. But here's where we get into the issues with TV. I think the biggest single problem I think I have with this show is we know what happens to almost all the characters in it. Therefore, there's no sense of tension or danger, or they're going to get out of the situation. Leia's going to escape. Nothing's going to happen to Obi-Wan. Nothing's going to happen to Darth Vader in this bit. Exactly what's going to happen to poor Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. They're going to get KFC fried.
Yeah, and you can assume that the other ones are going to die as well, can't you?
Or just never be seen again.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think Reva's the best character in the show, because she's the only character who's got an arc that we know nothing about. And I definitely think she's one of the kids who survives Order 66 at the start.
Yeah,
and she's going to turn back to the light side at the end of the show, or she'll die trying. I mean, I think her performance is really good. She is that cocky young
I don't
Sith,
understand at all the racist hate that she's getting from fandom. I don't understand. Is there a more toxic fan base than the Star Wars fan base?
Well, the only person we've ever had to block on our Twitter account was a Star Wars fan because we didn't like Boba Fett. I didn't like Boba Fett. This person started DMing me abuse, and I was like, I'm blocked.
I don't, because I think her character, is it Moses Ingram that plays her?
Moses Ingram's the actress, yeah.
Yeah.
As Reva.
Reva, third sister or whatever, yeah. I think she's probably one of the best, either the best thing in the show, or at the moment, because like everything you mentioned, that she does come with a backstory and a mystery behind what her motives are for wanting to kill Obi-Wan or find Obi-Wan or whatever, and that's obviously going to get revealed.
And we don't know where her story's headed.
Hopefully they don't drop the ball on that in the next couple of episodes, but her performance and how she's like being depicted, her villainous side, is probably one of the better in the show at the moment. So I genuinely don't know what people are watching where they're bringing her skin colour into the question of her performance and why she's in the show.
Well, they're dicks, mate. They're not Star Wars fans.
But
they're
it's
not
a
fans of any
mindset
kind,
that I don't understand.
Just people are assholes, basically. You got racist idiots out there who seem to think that anything. And you noticed it. They did the same thing with. It was funny because there was a lot of. Do you remember when in The Last Jedi everyone hated Kelly Marie Tran's character? Again, I wasn't a fan of her character because her character wasn't very well written. But it became this thing at the time where, and arguably at the time, she like had to come off social media. So did and I think it's also, I think it's not just a race thing. I think it's also a misogyny thing as well. Because Star Wars was mainly all like, you had Princess Leia, but she was the only woman in the original trilogies.
She wasn't just like the. I guess she in Return of the Jedi, she kind of was for a moment that helpless princess, and they sexualized her by putting her in a golden bikini. That was like the icon poster image for all horny teenage boys growing up.
And she had to be rescued in the first film, didn't she? So, but I mean, it's a different type. But I think even Daisy Ridley, who played Rey in the new ones, she came off social media because she was getting all this crap as well. And it's utter crap. I mean, one good thing this show does is you have got lots of good, strong female characters in it. Like Moses Ingram's Reva is, like we said, the best character in the show, hands down. And I really enjoyed young Princess Leia's performance. And given the fact that the actress Lyra Blair is actually only 10 herself, playing the same age she's supposed to be in the show.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought she was brilliant. And again, I've seen people online absolutely slagging her off, going, "Oh, she's a terrible actress." It's like, she's 10.
Yeah,
she's literally supposed to. There's very few kids who are like really good actors at 10. She's just supposed to react to what she's been told to, and like she was.
Yeah,
fine.
100%.
Really
I agree with you. I'm getting some proper compare her to another young actress, not Ramsay Bolton. What was her name in Game of Thrones?
Bella Ramsey.
Bella Ramsey. That's it. Yeah, thank you. From Game of Thrones, I'm getting some of like proper her vibes for her sassiness and everything that she's got going on.
Yeah.
But like for a 10-year-old girl. I feel bad that she's being exposed to the fan base at that age.
Oh, I don't think she's probably being exposed to it, man. They're probably like not letting, I'm sure her parents and like Star Wars and the producers and that.
That's not on her performance or anything, just on the direction. The chase scenes with her in it are the one thing that I'm just like, fucking hell, that's just so stupid. She's being chased by like 5 grown men, and they can't catch a little girl that was kind of running a bit weird as well. And now she's running away from everything, and it's like if like my little sister's 10, it would not take me that long to catch her if I needed to, like
just get a big net, right? And just throw it out. I would say as well, I've liked some of the other guest stars in it. Kumail Nanjiani was excellent in his role as the con man, who's like the morally dubious guy who he is technically ripping people off to make a profit off them, but he is also helping them escape. I loved Kumail Nanjiani. His comic timing was so spot on, wasn't it? And I loved to have seen him like team up with Obi-Wan for an episode, because at least he would have had someone to bounce off then. You did get a bit of a Mandalorian vibe in that episode though, where I think it's episode 2 when they were on the other planet, and she's running around and. He's got to protect her and rescue her from the bad guys who want her. It was very much, Grogu and Mando in season 1. Also, the best line of the whole show so far, I think, was from Uncle Owen in episode 1, when he just absolutely rips it out of Kenobi and goes, "What? Like you trained his father?" You can see that meme all over the internet now. It's become like one of the biggest memes. What? Like you? Blah, 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 Oh, and of course, in an episode, and it was so nice to see Alderaan before it got blown up in the first ever Star Wars. But yeah, I think I'm kind of looking at what my notes, and it's what we said. The other key issue I think they walk very dangerously is breaking the established Star Wars canon. You know, you've got the gospel of what was said in 1997's first film, A New Hope. And so the 5 writers are really constricted by what they can and can't do and where they can and can't take the story. That's why, as we've mentioned, Reva is one of the best characters. We know what happens to Obi-Wan, Luke, Vader, Leia. We know what happens to all of them in the future of the franchise. Do we want to take the bet right now? Do we reckon they're going to put fucking Jar Jar Binks in this show at some point?
No.
No?
Nah, I don't think
so. Charlie?
Well,
Jar Jar Binks?
I think they might have learned their lesson from the reaction when he very first appeared. But I mean, they do need to do something, in my opinion. I mean, I know we talk about the Star Wars fandom, and we're probably not, coming across too well about the show overall. I was just going to agree with what you say about the young Leia. I've got a 10-year-old daughter, and I think she's been spot on. And I think there's been quite a few scenes where it's just her and Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, and I think she's out-acting Ewan McGregor. I'm not sure he has the charisma to lead a show, which might be a not very popular opinion as well. But yeah, she's been fantastic. The highlight for me, along with Reva, who's been superb as well.
Yeah, is it the actor or the character that doesn't have the charisma?
Well, I don't know, because to be fair, that's a little unfair to Ewan McGregor, because I've seen him some other stuff and he's been very, very good and very suitable. I wonder if he's just trying to be a bit too English. Sometimes he comes across, I don't know, as a bit meek almost. But again, maybe he's kind of supposed to be. I know he's trying to keep his head down, and that's a difficult place. Maybe a difficult.
But the problem the problem with that is there's only a 6-episode season. I don't think they're going to do a second series of this show. And if his whole character arc is literally just he doesn't want to fight. I mean, he's lost how to use the Force properly and all that. Well, we've only got 2 episodes left, so does he get it back really briefly and then he buggers off and goes to his cave where he waits for Luke for another like 20 odd years or so?
Absolutely.
So
you're waiting for him to really kick off. You're waiting for him to really go, and that's what everyone wants to see. And the same's to be said of Tala as well, the other sort of heroine that's working with him. Yeah. I'm not sure. I think she comes across as a bit meek as well. I don't think she's sort of comes across as being authentic, as being able to do what, able to assist. I don't know. It's just I'm not getting something from her. I don't know what it is.
She choked out the Imperial officer behind the console pretty well in the last episode. So,
she did, but it's not believable that she could. That's what I mean. I don't think it's believable that she would, And how bad is the Empire security as well? Yeah, they're just wandering around where they will. I mean, I know they've got a uniform, or she's got a uniform on, but she's been challenged about 2 or 3 times and just seems to be able to blag her way through. And she's at a console that she shouldn't be in.
She even got red flagged. Like there was that scene where he's looking at her and he's looking at it, and she's like, "Hey, I outrank you, you little shit. Let me through." And then that's it. That's kind of all they needed to know.
All the facial recognition technology they must have. I mean, she's assassinated 3 troopers and then wandered off into a space stage. It's just the whole thing's a little bit odd. But I mean, don't get me wrong. Star Wars has always had that about it. You've always had the fact that the stormtroopers can't shoot straight, and everyone else, the dark side's not that great, and that's fine. It's all part of the fun. So I'm not being critical of that, but sometimes it does come across a little unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny when you've got a show where you've got magic forces like the Force, the Force, sorry. It just doesn't. This show needs to be. I think this is what comes back to the most recent 3 films, is that they were, for most people, they either hated them or they were only okay. There wasn't like that. Wow, you walked out of the cinema like punching your fist in the air because of how awesome it was, and Star Wars got that back with The Mandalorian. Arguably, The Mandalorian is probably the best Star Wars show, or, The Mandalorian is the best Star Wars thing that has been created in the last probably, I could argue since... Rogue One was very good, but again, it has the same problem as Obi-Wan, in that we didn't know any of those characters in it, and none of them made it out of there anyway. Spoiler for Rogue One. So it kind of, there was no, it was great and it was really well done, but it didn't matter long screen thing. Rogue One was a story of, oh yeah, we need to get the Death Star plans to this person. Cool, okay. And arguably at the end of Rogue One, when you had Vader come in and just, be a massive badass and force choke a bunch of people, I reckon that's kind of part of what they tried to do in this show. But you look at that scene in Rogue One at the end, that is directed so much better than the way he was directed in this. Like you said, Charlie, Vader needs to be a big deal, and he needs to, having a bit of heavy breathing, and in him not being able to jump over a little bit of fire, or like pull McGregor. When you just pull McGregor through the fire, like Obi-Wan, if you can hold him that high,
stood there staring at him, didn't he? Like, hang on a second, do you not have the force to do it? Just pull him.
It's
back.
not like the mountain from Game of Thrones where he's scared of fire. If they'd established that a little bit and the fire went a bit higher, then you could have went, oh, okay, maybe that's why he didn't do it. Or as I think you said in the office the other day, Charlie, he could just walk around the side.
Yeah, he could have walked round. And then the next scene, they cut back to an update, an Intel update, saying that Obi-Wan escaped somehow. What do you mean somehow? Can we see that? That could have been great. But it's just, there feels like a lot of missed opportunities. And I think whenever if you're introducing Darth Vader to a Star Wars movie or TV program, that's what we all want to see. And we all want to see it, him being awesome, because as a villain, he clearly is. And it just let me down a little bit on that sense. I mean, the show overall, I'm still watching it. I still intend to keep watching it, and I am kind of enjoying it overall. There's just a few, if you boil down to the sort of details in individual scenes, there's a few bits that you have to sort of accept and brush over, and that means it can't be a perfect show. But overall, it's okay.
Yeah, I think I put it firmly in the middle. It's much, much better than Boba Fett by a long shot. I mean, Boba Fett was such a bad show that halfway through the showrunners realised that, do you know what was going to make this better? If we don't have Boba Fett in it and we bring the Mandalorian back, which is exactly what they did for the last few episodes. But it's nowhere close to being as good as the Mandalorian, I think, at the moment, which is the best Star Wars ongoing series out there. So, yeah, I mean, the last thing I'm going to mention about the show is they made such a big deal about Hayden Christensen coming back for it. And what was the point? It's James L. Jones doing the voice still, and it could just be anyone in the suit. So unless we're going to get a flashback scene in the next two episodes, or we're going to have him take his helmet off and be all disfigured and have a chat with, Obi-Wan at some point, what was the big deal about making such a big deal out of Hayden Christensen? Because he's not really been in it at all, has he?
People think there's going to be a flashback to the Clone Wars at some point.
If you're going to have Christensen in it and make a big deal out of him being in it, then have him in it. Otherwise, it's just a guy in a suit with someone else's voice. But on the bright side, guess who's making the next Star Wars film? Yep, Taika Waititi. So that's going to be the next one that comes off. Completely new, original story, not connected to anything else in the Star Wars universe. So, looking forward to that. Because Star Wars is funny. And I think if he takes that kind of... again, and then what will be funny is when that comes out, the fans are going to be smack down the middle, right? There's going to be fans of Taika and the 4 movies who are just like, yes, brilliant. Because Star Wars, it can be funny if done right. And Taika will absolutely do that. He will absolutely just be like, we're going to have...
like in the original
Mando
trilogy,
episode.
when you've got Han Solo that's running after the stormtroopers, and then he's... and then they're just like, hang on a second, we outnumber you. Just turn around.
And then just cuts to running
like
back.
Little bits like that, you can proper lean into.
He's got the humour, man, and he knows how to do space. He knows how to do spaceships and intergalactic war stuff now. So Taika doing Star Wars, man, that'll be the thing. Right, so I think that rounds us. You hold same idea as well on that, David. That it's like a middling show, right? In the Star Wars
I'm
or do you
enjoying
prefer
it as much as I am the Mandalorian. It isn't perfect. I think if it was written a little bit more for adult audiences and not a family sort of show, it might be a little bit better. But but no, I'm like really enjoying it a lot more than you guys sound like you are.
Yeah, I'm getting through it. I mean, it's good. It's good, but it's not great. And with Star Wars, everything should be great. But that's the bar they set themselves.
Give me an S. Give me a P. This is taking too long. Spoilers ahead.
Right, and now that brings us on to our final review of the episode, and that is our spoiler review of, well, I feel the need for a sequel that is more than 35 years late, so not that speedy at all. Yes, it's time for Tom Cruise and Joseph Kosinski's long-awaited sequel, Top Gun Maverick. Yep, we finally have the sequel to Cruise's original blockbuster from 1986. And, for some people, I know Top Gun is their absolute favourite movie. Well, you know what? It didn't make that big of an impression on me in the 80s when I was growing up. It was just a cheesy action movie that I definitely didn't hold in as a high regard as some people have claimed that they did since Maverick's success. Were any of you guys big fans of the original? I'll go to you first, Charlie.
No, and actually, I only saw the original a couple of years ago, and my father-in-law was absolutely appalled that I hadn't seen it and forced me to watch it with a massive surround sound experience. And then I'm not sure it dates well when you haven't seen it, when you didn't see it in its heyday, I should say, and you're now comparing it to where movies are now. So no, I wasn't a big fan. Is a short answer.
And you, David?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the first one. I think it was like exactly what you said. It was that cheesy sort of old school Hollywood film, which in a lot of ways this was a Maverick. I think was a bit of a throwback Hollywood film to the golden years of Hollywood. And I think I enjoyed Maverick a lot more than I did the original, which you can't say for a lot of films that you prefer the sequel.
Yeah. Well, I actually put a question out on Twitter asking people think, and one of our friends over at Stew World Order, SWO Productions, said, Top Gun Maverick is approximately 8,000 times better than Top Gun and far better than it had any right to be. I think Thor Love and Thunder is 2022's best chance to have something else besides Everything Everywhere All at Once be my movie of the year.
I should say Top Gun, the original Top Gun, came out like, I think maybe 6 years before I was born? 8 years before I was born? Something along that line. So I obviously watched it like when I was about 10 years after it was released or whatever.
And he was like, what is beach volleyball? Because we live in England. Where it's not really
But it's still a fun, enjoyable film, like even when you're watching it in like 2000 or whatever.
Right, so let's get on to the plot of Top Gun 2, and I think you said it best in the office the other day, Charlie. It's essentially a rehash of the original with the ending from Star Wars, and it's pretty much exactly that. And I wonder tone-wise whether they, like you say, for being a modern-day audience, what tone would they go for? Was they going to go sort of super serious, America, fuck yeah, or were they going to go super camp like the original was? And they kind of go in the middle a little bit. They kind of pay homage to the cheesiness of the 80s and redo a lot of the stuff. I mean, beat for beat, it's almost identical to the original movie. But they do it in a way that's enjoyable. They do it in a way that you've got a big cheesy smile on your face as you're watching it. So the basic plot of the film is that drones are replacing actual pilots, and pilots like Pete Maverick Mitchell, Tom Cruise's character, are relics in danger of becoming obsolete. And in another breathtaking scene, we have him break Mach 10. But that breaks the rules, and Maverick gets punished by getting reassigned back to the Navy's Flight Tactics Instructor Program, which is known as Top Gun. And from there, it's pretty much a repeat of the first film, except here Cruise is a grizzled veteran having to train the cocky young rookies for a suicide mission to bomb a target in an unnamed, vague enemy country as not to damage overseas sales of the film. So I've got a few pros and cons on it. Well, the pros are, I mean, everyone generally loves this film, right? It's been massive. And I think a lot of that is down to the flying scenes, which are amazing, and it's due to the actors actually being in the back of the planes and getting hit with all this G-force and being put through all these crazy manoeuvres, with the actual pilots being in the front and being green screened out. I'm sure if you're in an F-16 doing barrel dives, I'm not really sure anyone needs to do much acting. I'm sure your face is just like, the whole time anyway. And it does keep the jingoism down pretty well. I was expecting this to be, a typical sort of, Michael Bay style film with all like America.
It was quite Michael Bay in a lot of its shots, in a lot of its direction.
Well, yeah, but the difference was it was edited well, and you could see what was going on in the action scenes, and there was editing in the action scenes, which Bay's not capable of. So I think Kaczynski did a much better. He's clearly a much better director And again, that's what Tom, as we were saying about Tom Cruise, that's what sells Tom Cruise films. He's realised people don't want to see him in front of a green screen pretending to do stuff. They want to see him actually doing the stunts, and that becomes a massive part of his, of his persona. If now, no matter what film he's in, if you're going to see a Tom Cruise action film, you can bet for your money Tom Cruise is doing 90% of the stunts.
The man's insane. Yeah. Like some of the stuff that he's done over his career and stuff like that he's continuing to do and learn and put his body through. And
he's what? He's almost 60. What's he now? He's 59 now, isn't he? He's getting on a little bit. Well, not to say getting on. Getting on. He looks just the same as any of the other guys when they're doing the bloody beach volleyball scene. I wonder how much working out he did for that. It's ridiculous, wasn't it?
the football scene, the American football scene, where they're on the beach. Like they're replicating the volleyball scene from the first film. Man, the man was toned. He was ripped. It's made me feel bad being like 29, looking down, and I just see flabby belly, and there's a 59-year-old bloke that's looking better than I am, and I'm half his age. It's quite depressing, really.
Well, I mean, he's Tom Cruise, man. Let's be honest.
He is Tom Cruise, yeah. I mean, if I was Tom Cruise, I think I'd be that fit as well.
I would say as well, one of the other stars of the film was Glenn Powell. Take a bow, son, because a star was born there. Glenn Powell, who played Hangman. And apparently he actually auditioned for Rooster, and he didn't get the role, but Cruise was so impressed. He's like, look, we're going to expand one of the other roles, and I want you in the film. And he's just so cocky, but he's so charismatic on the screen, man, isn't he? You know, towards the end of the film, you're just like, yeah, come on, Hangman's going to come in and save the day. Hangman's going to come and save the day, which of course he does, because there's absolutely nothing that isn't predictable about this film, but all in the best way. You got the way Val Kilmer's Iceman was treated in that great emotional scene with Cruise. I know Kilmer had been very ill with, I think it was throat cancer over the years, and he'd actually lost his voice. So when he actually spoke in the film, I was like, what? How did... And what they did is, apparently, they used computer AI and used archival recordings of Kilmer's own voice to make him talk within the film. Because he actually lost his own voice, it was due to cancer in 2014. So I think that was really well done. Although, then they went and killed him. Like, there was absolutely no need to kill Val Kilmer in the film. He was an old fella behind the desk in it. But I suppose what they've done is, you see that in the trailer, don't you? In the trailer of the film, you see a funeral scene. So they immediately trick you, because you're thinking, oh yeah, someone's going to die in the film. It's going to be one of the cocky young pilots. It's going to get killed in a train accident and all that. And they didn't do that. I mean, I thought for sure when we got introduced to the team, Bob was a dead man. I was sure of it.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying immediately.
He was like, but they've all got these cool names.
Like, that guy's dead. 100%.
Well, they had all these brilliantly cool names like Hangman, Phoenix, Payback, and Bob. He's just like, yeah, Bob's gonna die. You can't be a fighter pilot and called Bob.
Well, there's that joke where they go through it, aren't they, in the bar, and they're like, so what's your call sign? Bob. It's like, I love Bob though. He was beautiful.
And I think in this film you've got a little bit of meta-textuality about how Cruise is Maverick, and the film subtext is telling us as well that Cruise is getting a bit old now, and he is one of the last great movie stars, and despite him doing what he does in these films, he won't be able to keep doing this forever. And where are the next generation of big stars like Cruise who are going to have these kind of action films? And it's a good question, because I don't think there's many potential
it's interesting. Like, you've got The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. He's a massive star at the moment. You know, he's got a similar pull. I think Tom Holland is probably the next up-and-coming one who's going to have a similar pull to Tom Cruise, like in, 30, 40 years' time, maybe. Well, but you're right, I think there's a lot that are sort of... Like, there's loads that plateau, You've got people like Chris Pratt, for instance, who are very big through flashes, but there's none that persist through and have the longevity and career that Tom Cruise has had.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the film, Charlie? Bearing in mind, like you say, you'd only seen the original recently.
Yeah, I wonder if that's stitched me up a little bit. I mean, I appear to be the only person in the whole world that didn't think it was that great to start with. And I also am very conscious that I think I've come on this your lovely podcast today and moaned a lot. And I don't mean to moan. I'm really not. But what I should say is that I don't get to the chance to go to the movies often with the wife. And we went to see this one. And when I go to the movies, I want it to feel like a proper event. And this one, it did feel like that. And also when I had a little look around, and there were whole families turning out, and there were groups of mates, at the film as well. And it felt like the sort of film that shows that cinema really does have a place and a definite future where, streaming services were at one point had that under threat. So, the cinema needs Top Gun and people like Tom Cruise. So I'm not criticising it overall. It was a lot of fun. It was the same movie again. It was too much cheese for me, and I'm a big fan of stories, and the story was kind of lost in amongst all the personalities and the nostalgia, and that was okay, that was fine. Hangman I hated from start to finish, and you pulled him out as being your favourite. I liked Bob. I thought he was great and very necessary.
Did you hate him because of his character, or because of just in general?
He was over the top. I know you're supposed to hate him. Or you were supposed to kind of dislike him. I thought the arrogance was too much. It was just to the point where it was massively cliche. And you knew from how he was acting and exactly what was going to happen later on. And again, I don't think that was a problem. I think they kind of did that kind of on purpose. But it was the fact around the baddies. I don't know who they were, and I need a little bit of depth. If there's going to be scenes where you've got one side fighting against another, I need to know why I'm rooting for the goodies and why they're the goodies and these other people aren't. Who they are, where they're from, and a little bit of depth. And maybe that's the story writing background for me. So it wasn't. I wouldn't see it again, put it that way. But as an event, I enjoyed it. I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
You did mention you saw it in 4DX, didn't you? And you said how it was snowing in the cinema at one point, and when the planes were whooshing past, you had air being blasted past your ears, and I can see that really adding to the experience of the film.
Yeah, did it somehow simulate G-force as well? Because I heard someone say that they could feel the G-force of it.
Well, I didn't notice, and I think you would.
Okay.
I don't know how they can simulate sort of travelling.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah, how would you do that?
Did someone just grab your friend's face from behind and pull it back?
Yeah, maybe.
Didn't tell him.
I did come out looking younger, so maybe there was some G-force involved.
I think you were 100%. One of my, it's kind of my only criticism of the film, because I loved it, was the lack of knowledge in who the actual villains were. Like, I can't. If they did mention it during the briefing,
they didn't.
They did or didn't. No,
they didn't.
So yeah, I'm just like, are these Russians? Who are these people? Because it kind of just seems.
Were they Russians? And then they decided to oh no, we'll just have them be no one.
Just faceless people, yeah, whoever. Because there was no actual understanding as to who what this plant, was it uranium plant? Who was actually running it? Why they're running it?
They had to shoot. David, they needed 2 miracles.
2 miracles, and they did it. They did it, Neil.
But why were they trying to stop these people?
That's it.
Getting uranium. I appreciate they're building a weapon, but America has that ability. They have nuclear weapons, of course, as does the UK. So was it the UK? Was that the Isle of Wight they were on? Who knows? I need to know a bit. I need to understand why I'm rooting for Tom Cruise and why I want the other people to die. Because that's quite a dramatic thing to do, to murder someone in a plane. So I want to know why, and I think I'm the only person in the world. So I probably should keep that opinion to myself, maybe.
No. I agree with you. I think that having a vaguely unnamed enemy country. I mean, I wonder whether it was supposed to be Russia, and they was like, no, we might want to change that with. But then again, this film was locked and done probably before everything kicked off in March of this year. So I don't reckon it was that. I reckon it's going to be a faceless country in the middle of nowhere where we're not even going to let you know really what the region of where it is. It's just to not damage overseas sales, right? Anything negative about, say like China or Russia. Well, not Russia so much now, but China. Then they're not going to anything in the Asia Pacific region. Then the film doesn't do as well over there. So they clearly want all the money. So they don't want to offend anyone. I think that's a big part of it. Or they could just be like, or the choice could be, do you know what? The enemy almost doesn't matter. It's all about the mission and these guys, and they're almost fighting against themselves to do it. I can see that, but it doesn't really work. I think you need the villains.
It was very much about the people, the characters. What they were doing was almost sort of second fiddle. They just needed to put them in tense situations. And again, I'm not having a go at Tom Cruise. I think he's incredible and what cinema needs, as I've said. But it was a little bit too Cruise centric. I mean, not only was he the only person that could deliver one of those 2 miracles, but he got shot down and then turned up having nicked an enemy plane. I mean, that's pretty incredible, isn't it?
That's what he's capable of. That's the man. It's the man. It's the pilot.
That is proper Mission Impossible. Not only have you got to deliver the miracle, but you've also got to nick one of their old planes. I mean, that's pretty incredible. Which he did just by jogging over the runway full of bad people. So he's incredible.
One other thing I've got to mention is that apparently moustaches are hereditary in Top Gun. Because in case we could figure out that Miles Teller's rooster is the son of Maverick's dead best mate Goose. So much so, that was bad enough that he's got a moustache too. they have a redo of the song and dance thing of Great Balls of Fire. I'm sorry, do you honestly think a bunch of pilots in the modern day would be in a bar playing a Jerry Lee Lewis song? No, they'd have some like crappy rap song or some like dodgy alt-rock stuff, wouldn't they? Like they'd be listening to Limp Bizkit or something, and like they wouldn't be like listening to a song, playing a song from the 50s. The whole reason they did that scene was just so that Maverick could look on sadly outside the window, and he's like, "Oh, my best friend's dead still." But Devil's Advocate, yeah, I really enjoyed the film, and I think it's going to be on a lot of people's, and probably mine, best films of the year list, because it's a big, cheesy action blockbuster with a true movie starring Cruise as the lead. The practical effects and the action direction superb, and it's those scenes and the charisma of the cast which is what sells the film. However, it isn't perfect like many people think, so let's play Devil's Advocate here, and I think I'll have a look at a few things that I didn't like about it. So, we've just gone over the first one, which is it's a faceless enemy, and despite the amazing action scenes, you never really feel like any of the characters are in danger. I felt like there was more in danger in the training missions than there were any actual mission at the end. I didn't think there was really any need to kill off Val Kilmer's character, especially after that great scene. It didn't really serve a purpose. It just, they're a bit... I suppose it's to avoid the standard, we was expecting someone to get killed during training, and then... Well, actually, that would have made more sense, I think, from a narrative point of view. Someone dies during training, and then Cruise had to step in to fill up the spot because there wasn't enough time left. That would have been better than just going, do you know what? You're the man for the job.
I don't agree with two of these points. I'm going to let you...
Okay. Good. The working in of the original film's footage in flashbacks was quite clumsily done, and if you want to take an example of how to do that with an older film, look at Cobra Kai, David. They did it spot on. It was really clunky the way they brought the old scenes in here. And bar Hangman, Rooster and Phoenix, and honestly, why give her that name if you're not going to shoot her down and let her survive? The rest of the recruits were pretty faceless. I mean, we've got Bob, can't forget Bob. John Hamm's about as close as you get to an antagonist in the film, but he's that typical sort of, well, gosh damn it, I don't like you, but I respect you, as Vice Admiral Cyclone. Jennifer Connelly's character really wasn't needed, but you know what? You need something to break up the action scenes, I guess. And she's not bad in it. One bonus for a Cruise film is she is only 8 years younger than him instead of the usual 20. So, well done, Tom Cruise. Well done. And where was Kelly McGillis's love interest from the original film? Well, apparently she wasn't asked back, as she does look too old now. And the filmmakers tried to cover it up by saying they didn't want all the storylines to look backwards, which I think is code for, yeah, she looks her age now. I saw very little mentioned as well about not asking back Meg Ryan, who played Goose's wife in the original. And with Goose's son Rooster being a key part of the film, you'd expect a Meg Ryan cameo more than a McGillis one. But there was less about her mentioned than there was about McGillis. So,
they killed her off, didn't
they? No, they didn't.
Yeah, they killed off her character. Not in the film, she was dead already.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, she died. Yeah, because his mum had died. That was mentioned. Yeah.
Oh,
so she's
okay.
just dead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Meg Ryan's dead. Well, they fridged Meg. Terrible.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with you on the point that you mentioned with the having to kill somebody off. Kill off one of the guys in training, because that would have been way too much like the original. Then, like with Goose dying in training. In fact, it would have then literally have been the exact same film, like more so because of that happening. And I think that scene, a lot of this film, you don't actually bloody understand the stakes really. It's all, you're taking it for granted because we don't know fighter pilots. We're not pilots. We don't know that this run is impossible to do in 3 minutes, or how difficult it is because of the G-force applications and stuff. It's all just what they're telling you, and we're just like, oh, okay, then that must be really difficult to do. So that moment where you see Tom Cruise basically do the impossible, and is like Charlie says, is like most Tom Cruise thing ever, and pulling off the impossible and doing something in 2 minutes and 15 seconds that these best fighter pilots in America, but being America, it's the world, the best fighter pilots in the world not being able to do it in 3 minutes is, I thought that was brilliant. I was properly like, oh, like, yes, when you have like when the odds are defied, but like I said, that it's all I don't bloody know if it's difficult or not to do. I'm not a pilot. I'm just taking the writing and performance elements of it being good and them telling me.
It's not doing the Kessel run in 12 parsecs or less. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, bloody Star Wars.
All right, guys. Well, I think that about rounds us off today. I think Charlie is the one person in the world who doesn't like it, and for that he'll be vilified. And David really liked it, and I liked it, but not as. I did really enjoy it. Actually, I did really enjoy it, but
Can I also say I'm not a big fan of Miles Teller. There's something about him. He's just one of those that I'm just not a big fan of, like previous work that he's done. Aside from
what you mean,
Whiplash.
the Oscar-winning Whiplash?
Aside from Whiplash, I literally.
But he's not done too much bar that, has he?
Yeah,
He did do that terrible,
War Dogs,
terrible,
Fantastic Four.
No one mentions that Fantastic Four. It doesn't exist. It was terrible.
Well, he did it. So I'm not like. So whenever I see him in something, I'm just like, oh. But no, I liked him in this. So maybe my opinion of him has changed after watching this. I won't watch another film and be like, bugger, he's in it.
Right, well, I think that's all about the time we have on this week's episode of the podcast. So I'd like to say thanks to our guest, Charlie Gallagher, and I believe you might be joining us on our next episode as well.
Yes, as long as I can make it on time. So apologies for today.
No worries. Well, on that next one, I haven't actually 100% nailed down what we're talking about, but we are definitely going to be discussing Amazon Prime's The Boys and Apple TV's Slow Horses. See you next time.
We needed road.